Halo 2 was a game that was steeped in lore, and the deeper that you dug, the more mysteries you found. But what if I told you there's still, even now, 20 years after the release of this game, there's still a secret that is yet to be solved? In today's video, we celebrate the release of Halo 2, and we uncover this one persistent mystery that has remained for 20 years, and quite possibly begin another community-based project to reveal the intimate details of this mystery. So let's roll the intro. Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00, and before we really get into the mystery that still remains within Halo 2, I want to give Halo 2 its due. I want to give it its spotlight, at least for the next couple of minutes, and then we'll get on to the meat of this video. But if you want to skip ahead to the actual mystery itself, then here's the timestamp to fast forward to. I've also put chapters into this video, so you can just skip this section entirely.
Video gamers across the country are anxiously awaiting the midnight release of a game called Halo 2. 3, 2,
1. November the 9th, 2024 marks the 20th anniversary of Halo 2, which, as I'm sure you'll agree is not an exaggeration to say, likely ranks amongst the most influential, most popular, and most successful video games ever released. Halo 2 doubled down on the exquisite recipe of Halo CE, continued the story, and introduced Halo to the masses via Xbox Live in a way that no video game previous to this had really been established. It is for this reason that the early 2000s was considered one of the most innovative periods of video game development, and Halo was absolutely at the forefront of this industry. It is also because of the success of Halo CE that led to Halo 2 that ultimately culminated with Halo 3 that most Halo fans will agree that the early 2000s were the golden era for Halo, and Halo 2 was a massive part of that puzzle. The midnight release of the game made it onto news headlines across the world. Halo was a cult phenomena and the biggest grossing video game in history to that date. It genuinely felt at that time that the entire world knew about Halo.
To be first in line to buy the new video game Halo 2.
Video gamers across the country are anxiously awaiting the midnight release of a game called Halo 2.
45 minutes and counting for Halo 2 to go on sale.
The line right now is probably about 100 yards long.
It is the most anticipated game in entertainment history.
Well, if you're an Xbox gamer, there's a good chance you're pretty tired right now.
Halo 2 sold 2.4 million units in 24 hours.
Now, I understand there's a few more states to put in the red and blue columns. We're going to go back to the map and Rob Corddry. Rob, looking at this, Rob.
Yeah, suck it. Where's your alien plasma rifle now, bitch?
Rob!
Oh.
Are you playing Halo?
No.
The game released to overwhelming critical and fan response, and ultimately came to define that era of video game history, widely accepted at being the recipe upon which all online multiplayer games would be based upon and be measured by. Having played Halo CE myself countless times to that point, I was eagerly awaiting the release of this keystone entry into the franchise. And Halo 2, as with most of us, fostered an undying love for the franchise that continues to fuel our passion for this franchise to this day. Now, of course, at its 10-year anniversary, we received Halo 2 Anniversary, which released with the Master Chief Collection in tow. And whilst a lot can be said for the success and failures of the launch of the Master Chief Collection, one thing was abundantly clear, that Halo 2 was treated markedly better with the anniversary than its predecessor was. The cutscenes were phenomenally well orchestrated. The upgraded graphical fidelity honoured the original game's tone while also bringing it into the modern era, allowing new audiences to be introduced to the Halo franchise, whilst also providing a beautiful homage to the original Halo 2 and an opportunity for the legacy fans to enjoy Halo all over again. Well, it's now been 20 years since Halo 2 released, and 10 years since Halo 2 Anniversary released. So you'd expect by now that pretty much every secret, every glitch, every hidden piece of lore, every cut piece of content, within reason, would now be known to the wider Halo community. But I'm here to say that there is one piece that we've consistently missed, and I've spent a colossal amount of time trying to find evidence that someone else somewhere has found it, identified it, or done the legwork to figure it out. And as far as I'm aware, no one has. Now bear with me here, because most of you are going to hear what I'm about to say and you're going to attempt to immediately skip away from this video, but I assure you it's not what you think, okay? So stick with me here. There is a song in Halo 2 called the Mausoleum Suite. And in that song there is a hidden voice. Now wait. I know what you're going to say. Yes, we know about this voice. It's the voice at the start. It's the deep one. Everyone knows about it. This is nothing new. We know that it's mendicant bias. We know that he's ruminating on his betrayals of the Forerunner. We know all of this. You know nothing, Jon Snow. But it isn't that voice. There is a second voice in the Mausoleum Suite, much further on in the song. And this voice, to my best efforts, continues to elude me. And this second voice, there's evidently something to it, because I actually put this up on Twitter back in 2020 and got a response from Marty O'Donnell, of course being the composer of this piece of music, in his usual cryptic way, hinted quite clearly that there is something there. And for the intervening 4 years since I first put that up on Twitter, I've been going back and forth, periodically coming back to this voice, back to this piece of music, and trying to figure out what is hidden here. The voice first appears around the 5-minute 20 mark, and persists until the 6-minute 15 mark, where it halts and is followed by a very ear-piercingly loud, Glass Wonders kind of soundscape. This is the part in question. It is a normal pitched voice. It's not deepened like Mendicant Bias's. It's more just a normal human vocal range. There is a lot of noise, there's a lot of reverb, and of course the music at this point is very ambient, very ethereal, and it makes it very difficult to ascertain the specifics of the voice. So it might be reversed, but it might not be reversed. Now I have to explain at this point that over the years I've gone through literally dozens of variations, trying to clean up the noise, trying to isolate the vocals, trying to do this, that and the other, to varying degrees of success. What I know for certain is that the left and right audio feeds are slightly different. I believe that the right feed is a slightly delayed echo of the left feed with additional noise and reverb. The issue I'm having really is that, as far as I can tell, the vocals were recorded and then given a lot of post-processing, a lot of reverb, likely possibly reversed at this point and then given additional reverb and additional noise filters and distortion, and then was overlaid with the actual musical soundscape that was created, and then additional post-processing put on top, which means in order to strip away all these different layers of quote-unquote noise, I mean that with respect because the literal definition of noise is an unpleasant sound, we need to understand the specific way in which all of this was edited together in order to somewhat reverse engineer it, so to speak. In either case, with all of my different post-processing and isolating of the vocals and using another part of this track as kind of the noise threshold for the vocal part of the track to try to remove as much additional noise and just get the vocals isolated, all of my attempts over these several years have culminated in this. And I think at this point it goes completely without saying that there is most definitely a voice here. Now, like I say, over the years there's been dozens of different ways that I've looked at this. There's been dozens of different ways that I've edited it. There's been dozens of different ways that I've filtered things or isolated things. And I've even handed this off to my brother, who has collaborated with me in the past on a few different musical-based videos that I've put here on YouTube because he is a professional musician. And even he accepts that there is most definitely a vocal here of some degree, but he just can't get past the noise. And after 4 years of trying, I'm literally at the end of my capabilities. I evidently do not possess the know-how, the skill, the software in order to actually process this piece of audio. Now you have to bear in mind here that this additional voice, this additional mystery within the Mausoleum Suite was evidently so well hidden that even the people that remastered the soundtrack for Halo 2 forgot to put it in. In the remake of the Mausoleum Suite, the Cryptic Whisper, they do put in Mendicant Bias's voice at the start of that song. But when you fast forward to the part of the song that the second voice is found in, it's entirely missing. Not just the voice, the entire part of the song. And when you check some of the other songs that relate to the Mausoleum Suite, it's absent in those as well. Given that there was apparently an unfortunate situation in which 343 Industries staff were told not to talk to anybody from Bungie in relation to Halo 2 Anniversary, it may be that they couldn't decipher what was going on in this piece of music and thus left it out entirely. So this most definitely is a mystery isolated to the original Halo 2 soundtrack, which ultimately means it likely relates to the original lore implications and deep lore narrative of Halo 2. Although I do hasten to add here that the Mausoleum Suite obviously had Mendicant Bias's voice, speaking on his crimes against gods and man. And in the Cryptic Whisper, the anniversary version of the Mausoleum Suite, it's actually the Didact speech from the end of Halo 4 put in reverse, which, to my mind, detracts from that song quite considerably. The whole point of putting Mendicant Bias's voice at the start of this track is because a fragment of Mendicant Bias is occupying the key ship at the center of High Charity. There are, of course, very obvious deep lore connections in using Mendicant Bias here, but also using Mendicant Bias's voice speaks to the wider narrative happening within the events of Halo 2. The elites are gradually realizing that the great journey, the promise that the prophets gave them, is false, that their interpretations on what the Forerunners were is incorrect, that humanity are, in fact, the children of the Forerunners. And it was Mendicant Bias himself who revealed this misinterpretation to the prophets of truth, mercy, and regret at the start of the Human Covenant War, leading to the prophets' inexorable grasp for power and thus concealment of the truth of what the humans really are. So switching Mendicant Bias's voice in Mausoleum Suite to the Didact's voice in Cryptic Whisper doesn't really tie in to the story of Halo 2, which leads me to believe that there's a distinct possibility at least that this voice might be the voice of offensive bias. The voice most definitely doesn't match the voice of the Gravemind, the voice most definitely doesn't match that of Mendicant Bias, and the only other entity I can think of that is as deeply entrenched in the very, very, very deep lore of the Halo universe that has some ramifications with regards to the Flood and the actions of Mendicant Bias is offensive bias. There were a couple of occasions during my various different iterations of the cleanup of this piece of audio where I thought I perhaps heard what sounded like Bible verses, which would tie in quite heavily into the deep lore of the Halo universe. Bible references are rife within the Halo universe, but I also believe I've heard small little quotes that may line up with things that Offensive Bias may have said. The only issue therein is that those tie to quotes that happened well after Halo 2 was created, particularly more recent quotes in some of the Halo books. Now, of course, it's vaguely possible that perhaps they called upon the earlier lore that was established around that time and brought it forward into the modern era. That's happened in the Halo books before a few times, but I'm not as inclined to believe that, because if they knew those quotes were Offensive Bias back in the day, why didn't they recreate the voices in the newer soundtrack? Because they just didn't. In either case, this is the punchline. I can't physically take this any further. No matter what I do, no matter how I approach this, no matter what techniques I apply, no matter what software I use, I can't clean this audio up to the point that I can actually make sense of it. So I'm asking you guys if you can help me. I'm at the end of my capabilities. This game is 20 years old. This piece of music is 20 years old. This voice has remained untranslated and unidentified for 20 years. So in celebration of quite possibly one of the greatest games that have ever existed, in celebration of Halo 2, I'm making a call to arms for anybody out there who has the know-how and the means to be able to isolate this audio and find out what this voice is saying, and more importantly, who this voice is. I have attached links in the description to the raw audio that I've used to identify this voice throughout this video. The links will allow you to download those isolated pieces of audio, and I hope that people will get to work on this and help me identify who this is, what this is, 20 years after the game originally released. I've also created a dedicated channel in my Discord solely to focus on figuring this out. Again, the files will be made available there, so if you want to come across, see development, collaborate, or offer your services in figuring this out, again, the link is in the description. This is a game that played into a trilogy and a wider franchise that has come to define a generation. 20 years since Halo 2 first released, and there's one last mystery to solve. So how about it? How about once again we pull together like the community that I know that we are and figure out this last remaining mystery within Halo 2. I will be keenly watching the developments of what happens hereafter, and when we finally do crack the code, I will of course make a chase-up video. So until next time. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, consider hitting the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on future content, and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. It really does help the channel out significantly. Feel free to pop a comment below on anything you'd like me to cover next, and before signing off I just want to give a shout to my Patreon supporters, Spartan10148, my singular contender class Ancilla, Falcon, Jordan and Poseidon, the metarchs of my facility, Sylphia, Ashley, Esoteric, Spartan 1029 and Chris Allen, my dutiful monitors, Darian, Legion, Labrat, Spartan 137, Chris, Element 0, J3, Mr. Keys, Gunslinger Cult, Evermore's Personal Devil, Scion Esports, and Saber, my diligent sub-monitors, my dominating fleet of Strato Sentinels, and my loyal enforcers, and all other patrons who continue to support the channel. I can't thank you guys enough. Big props to my Tier 0 YouTube members, Spartan 137, Talia, Fenrir, Bornstella, and Jimbo, and all other YouTube members keeping the installation running on that glorious vacuum energy. And if you really love what I'm doing here, consider supporting the channel via the links in the description. Much love, take it easy, and find peace in the domain.